Newly released Tenpai Dragon in the TCG, soon to come out in Master Duel, is getting cheated due to a misunderstanding with a common ruling. I'll be showing you Konami tournament footage, plus explaining how you could properly take advantage of the ruling yourself. Now, first off, let's hop on over to Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta. You could go there through masterduelmeta.com, and looking at the tier list, you could see that Tenpai Dragon is climbing. If we look at the tier list post Legacy of Destruction, it's currently the second best deck. And we currently have a YCS happening where we have the top deck list, and also the regional tournaments happening right now where it's trending very closely behind Snake Eye. But what is going on with this deck? Why is it getting cheated? So if you're unfamiliar with Tenpai Dragon, the deck could deal 37,000 damage, and it's anti-Nibiru, can't get Veilered, can't get Impermanence within main phase 1. And that has to do with the ruling that they're getting cheated on due to a card called Daruma Karma Cannon. This says, change as many monsters on the field as possible face down, then if either player controls a face-up monster, they must send all face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. Now, this secondary effect affects the player, not the monsters. So when you have the field spell, which states, during your main phase, not that one, but this one, fire dragon monsters you control are unaffected by your opponent's activated effects during your main phase 1 only. So what would happen is, Daruma would flip down the field, and then any monster that's unaffected from being flipped face down would then be sent to the graveyard by the second part of the effect. But the card says then. So a monster must be flipped face down in order for the second part of the effect to actually work. And due to this ruling misunderstanding, possibly the card is raising in value. It's shooting up right now. You know, it's about, what was it? Maybe like a 58% gain in market value. Is it only because of this ruling? We're going to explore that. Maybe you could tell me that the card is still good beyond that, but that's kind of suspicious. So let's watch Konami tournament footage right here. Flipping up the Daruma Cannon.
Ooh, but there is the Karma Cannon.
Yes. No monster on the field was flipped face down. Now listen what the Konami caster officially says.
So a very cool interaction, since Karma Cannon cannot set the monsters and the player sends both to the graveyard.
That is not a cool interaction. That is an illegal interaction. So as we already explained, anything that says then, before the then must happen. It's still a legal activation if all monsters are on the field are unaffected. Now, what if there's only link monsters on the field? Let's say there's an SP Little Knight. Would this be a legal activation? No, there has to be at least one monster on the field that it could attempt to flip face down. Now, because the dragons on the field could attempt to be flipped face down but are unaffected, it's a legal activation, but because nothing was flipped face down, nothing gets sent to the graveyard. And, you know, this issue is becoming more prevalent, I believe, because in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Discord, people are discussing the ruling. They're trying to figure out what's going on. Will Karma Cannon still send while under the field spell? Yes. Now, that's half true, but I do think you should emphasize you have to at least flip something face down. Another ruling, can you even attempt to activate Daruma if the only monster on the field is unaffected? So the only monster on the field is unaffected. So it says, sure, you could only not activate if the only face-up monster on the field are link monsters or tokens. But again, we should emphasize that at least one monster should be flipped face down, or the monster unaffected does not get sent. Another thing that could be causing confusion, another ruling question, does Daruma send a monster unaffected by the other card effects of the unaffected by the card effects of the graveyard? Monsters that are unaffected will not be flipped face down. However, sending monsters that are face up is not an effect that affects the monster, so the monsters will be sent. Again, not emphasizing that at least one monster must be flipped face down. Now, how can you take advantage of this ruling yourself? Of course, we're gonna be showing this. This was during the YCS where I was discussing live with the chat what Cameron Neal could be doing against the Daruma Karma Cut right here. You banish Poplar and Ash, and the Daruma flips nothing.
Snake Eye monsters at this point. Maybe at the very least, you want to get rid of the Poplar so that when Poplar comes back, it has the ability to put something in the Stone Trap Zone for Temple.
I'm right, but he's not doing it. Cam Neal. We're talking after this, mate. Oh my God. Cameron Neal, I love you, by the way. You are great. Now, so what would happen there with the SP Little Knight, you would chain, activate, target both of your monsters that are face up that could be flipped face down, and then by banishing them, your link monsters will remain on the field. If there's one thing you get from this video, take a screenshot, save this. This is conjunctions. It is very important for card text and understanding how they work. So it's all about sequentially happening or simultaneously. And is A or B required? So for example, you see then, that means B is requiring for A to happen due to it saying then. Another way where you're required to do A, then B happens is if it says and if you do, but that will happen simultaneously. And also very important to understand the conjunctions is understanding when both are required. A and B must happen or neither happen. So if we look at a card like SP Little Knight, it says your opponent activates a card or effect. You target 2 face-up monsters, including 1 monster you control. So it doesn't have to target itself if you're wondering from the previous ruling against the YCS where this would have worked against a Daruma cannon. It says banish both until the end phase. So what happens is if one of the monsters they're not there anymore, then the other monster does not get banished. So that's very important for, let's say you have a Compulse. Not that that's a popular card. You could chain Compulse to this effect or another, I guess SP Little Knight versus SP Little Knight would be a good example. You at least banish one of the monsters that this is attempting to banish. The other one will now not be banished. Now what happens if one of the monsters is unaffected and the other monster can be affected by the banish? It will still attempt to banish both in that instance as long as that monster is still there to be banished. So that's where it's a little bit different, but this is a good way to counter SP Little Knight. Now, if we look at a card like Promethian Princess, it says, and if you do, and it says destroy them. So if one of the monsters are not there when this is activating to destroy both of the monsters, it will still destroy one of them. It doesn't have to destroy the targets that you targeted, so at least one of them are destroyed, and if you do at least destroy one of them, special summon this card, which happens simultaneously, not sequentially. Now, if we want to look at cards with the word then, let's look at something like Nibiru. So you're a Master Duel player and you're trying to figure out why do you get to draw 2 when Nibiru is summoned plus the token summoned, right? It happens at the same time. Maxi does not draw 5 cards if they pendulum summon 5 monsters. Well, it says special summon this card from your hand, then special summon. So that tells you 2 things. It happens sequentially, so it's a card like Maxi, you're gonna draw 2 cards, and because it says then, the token does not get summoned unless this card gets special summoned. So even if you tribute the field and then you're not able to special summon Nibiru, you do not get to special summon the token. So that's pretty important there. Something like Nightmare Phoenix, you could read this. It says destroy the back row card, then you could draw a card. So if you for some way have some way to stop your back row card from being destroyed, let's say you chain MST to destroy the target of Phoenix yourself, they're not going to draw a card. So it's not going to be destroy and draw. It's destroy, then if you destroyed it, you then get to draw. Another important ruling, I think this is prevalent against Runic, I was using this, is something like the Runic Destruction. Destroy it, then banish the top 4 cards of your opponent's deck. If they're trying to deck you out, they must perform before the then in order to banish cards off the top of the deck. So if they do not negate the effect of your monster because it dodges it, flips face down, you negate your own monster before they negate it themselves, then the banish of the top 3 cards of the deck do not happen. Important ruling, I think, would be with the original Sinful. This states you could banish this card from the graveyard, target a Snake Eye or Diablo Star in your graveyard, and then you may be thinking you have a card like DD Crow or maybe a Bestial. What happens if you banish the target of this card? Well, it says add a level 1 fire from your deck to your hand, then place the targeted monster on the bottom of the deck. That means DD Crow or Bestial will not stop this from searching. You're only stopping them from putting the card on the bottom of the deck. Now, a card like the Wanted Seeker works a little bit different. It says place the target or place it on the bottom of the deck, and only if you do that, it's then sequentially, you then draw a card. So if you DD Crowed in response to this effect, you would in fact be stopping them from drawing, but against Original Sinful, you would not be stopping them from searching the deck. So that's how you want to understand these rulings. Take a picture of this and look through it over and over. Now, the confusion could be with if you do. So for example, Apollo USA says that if you do, you have to lose 800 attack in order to negate. So if you have some way to chain Apollo USA to reduce her attack down to 0, or she can't lose 800 attack, she does not negate the activation. So that's a good thing to understand there. What is another relevant one? Send one card from your hand or field to the graveyard if you do. So if they can't actually get it into the graveyard, you don't then get to actually special summon this card. And of course, it's not then, it's if you do. So it happens at the same time. Is there any other relevant ones here where you would, banish from the deck? And then if you do, that makes sense. I don't think there's any other ones that are too confusing here. Herald, negate the activation. And if you do, destroy that card. So if you don't actually negate the activation, you would not then destroy the card. I don't think that's too relevant there. Now, that is what I have on the then and if you do and what is happening with the Daruma cannon. But unfortunately, in these tournaments, there's even more cheats that happen. So the player that got cheated, and by the way, the proper definition of being a cheater in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is through intent. So I'm not calling any player a cheater themselves, but I am saying that, Tenpai players, they're getting cheated by Daruma Cannon, whether both players know or not of the ruling, okay? So I just want to clarify that. So the Tenpai Dragon player that got cheated then got payback, and I'm against it. This is illegal cheating, by the way. This is not legal cheating.
Can be activated.
Tax into the red. Activate red. It's just because this is in the same duel. Special summon the deck. What happened here? Why is this wrong? Well, this is not really specific ruling, it's just the card itself. Special summon a dragon from your deck, except Tenpai Dragon Chundra. And that's what the card is. So you can't use the effect to summon another one. So, that unfortunately does happen. What is going on? How many judges are watching these games? I'm thinking that if illegal plays happen on camera, this is the rule of life, right? If something happens on camera, it happens 10 times more off camera. Tell me if you agree with that. But I also believe that on camera, you have multiple casters, and don't they assign them multiple judges? So how are things like this happening? And then another ruling, so what I like to do in Master Duel is I continually click the info button with my mouse click. And what that does is it shows me that I already normal summoned for the turn, because sometimes turns could be really long, and having that extra information just right away visually, I already normal summoned, I could keep making my plays, I don't have to keep thinking about it. Well, that would have been helpful within this duel in the same tournament where they normal summon twice in one turn. That's probably the most basic ruling of the past 25 years of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Only one normal summon a turn. So we normal summon the Jet Synchron, and let's speed this up where this turn gets long, right? So people are going to forget. Is it reasonable? Do we really think that this player had intent? I'm not trying to investigate that this person's a cheater or not, but I'm just showing that on camera, judges watching, even something as simple as double normal summoning is happening in these events. So quite a bit happens. I'll do a little jump, do a little jump. It's like 3 minutes passes by. Do a little jump. We're still in the same turn. We're still in the same turn. I just want to make sure we know we're on the same turn. Do a little jump. We're doing our main play. I know this is long. Make an access code talker. We're going to spin it back. By the way, in order to make that play, you have to, on the resolution, toggle on in Master Duel. Otherwise, you can't respond to the activations of access code talker. But it's much easier to do in person. Okay, drew a swarm. We're still in the same turn. Still in the same turn. Still in the same turn. It's a long turn. Long turn. So maybe this is understandable.
Does it work, though? Doesn't really work, does it? Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
Access code talker's gone. So we're in the same turn.
Wow.
Same turn.
No way. Whoa. Unfortunate.
Normal summon number 2. And, oh, it's just a droll. No, it's actually a Typhon. So, that's massive. Typhon's huge. Typhon's a crazy good card. 3,000 attack or higher now can activate. We just swung in for 2,900 damage. That's a big freaking deal. What else is good? Oh, Dragon Ball Z. All right, now, thank you very much. That is the video. Make sure you check out beta.yugiometa.com. Check out the OCG meta analysis of all the top tech, side decks, top deck lists. I also did it for the TCG. So people have been saying they want a Road to the King for the TCG, and you got it. So you got the side deck, techs, we got the deck profiles, usage, all the top decks, all that good stuff. And there you go. So I appreciate you all very much. Just like that, we are out.